Well, the couples continued down. Uh, they left the observation deck, I should call it. And I said it was concrete. Well, it wasn't all concrete. It partly was. You could see it had been expanded a little bit out of timber, but that's no matter. Anyway, they went down steps further. Now these were wooden steps, and now they were down at the what once had been a tannery. It was fairly level, almost perfectly level down there because the tannery had a concrete floor which had been left there. And as I say, a few of the tanks, but most of the tanks had been taken out. That cleanup was a violent business. I mean, it was a truly industrial site with, steel and steel-clad buildings and wrecking balls and bringing all that stuff. But it was over. It had been over for 6 years, and in the meantime, this area had become a remarkable garden. I've called it. It's a river beach, but a lot of it wasn't right close. And I say river. Actually, Sadler Creek is really just a creek. It's not more than about 20 feet wide, naturally, but they had diverted it and upstream a little bit, and they'd run it all through this area, so there was water running all through it from little pond to little pond, and it wasn't all clear. Some of it was very muddy, but that's because there were tadpoles in there and frogs. When it came out of Sadler Creek and off that. Well, what came off the limestone quarry wall that was left, that was sort of more downstream. But further upstream, when they tapped into Sadler Creek, it was living water. You probably wouldn't want to drink that, but not only tadpoles, but frogs, toads, snakes, water snakes. In some of that, but that was just all part of the garden, and they hadn't excavated. They purposely had not excavated any lower than that slab, because they didn't know for sure what might be buried under there, and they figured out, or they trusted that Gaia would let them know what was underneath there by what she let grow there in those various places. It would reveal itself. The water, now when I say Gaia, you probably would be more comfortable if I said Mother Earth or nature if you want. They were testing the water all the time. I mean, it kind of legally had to be, when you had people in there. Well, anyway, they walked and they looked around, and everywhere people were messing with the water, changing stuff, because there was bricks left, a lot of bricks left, and pruning shears. A lot of them had pruning shears, even though they hadn't really planted anything except they'd introduced the tropical plants. They had let things go, but they manicured. I could go on and on about that. But they walked around, but not before long at all. Janny said, "Scott, look, that woman that was topless, she's coming toward us." And sure enough, she was. She was walking straight toward them. She was carrying a bathrobe, which before too long she put over her shoulders and tied. And I mean, she was a beautiful woman, and she had amazingly long, thick hair, dark hair, but she walked like a model, and she was coming right straight toward the group of the four of them. And they were surprised. And she came up and she said, "Hello, my name's Constance Mercia, and most people call me Lady. You can call me Lady if you want." She said, I'm sort of like the hostess at the moment for our beach, our river beach down here at the moment, but there are others. And you might think of me as a lifeguard if you want, but there's hardly any danger down here. There's nothing deep enough that you'd almost have to try to drown down here. This is more like a playground. Well, anyway, she introduced herself and she said, "You look to me as if you're new to the park and the garden." And they said, "Yeah, yeah, they were here with their children who'd just been wed." And Constance, or lady, maybe I should call her, lady said, "Oh yeah, we heard about that. We hope to see them down here before too long, but I don't think they've been here yet. I think I would have known." She was just talking as freely and comfortably as she could, and she said a couple things I need to tell you that be sure that as you're probably going to be wanting to play with this water, at least, if not get into it. But please don't use any soap. Don't use any detergents. Don't use any shampoo. I don't think you'd think to do that anyway. But those are things, and if you're really going to get in the water, no body lotions on you. Cosmetics are really discouraged. Basically, it's water. It's different. This is nothing like say a swimming pool or what do you call it, a sauna or a hot tub. It's full of all those chemicals. This is just water, and we need to keep it like that. We want to be protecting our frogs and tadpoles and snakes, and so and ourselves as well. So I always don't have to, but I feel that I should explain that to strangers when they come here. And you can explain it to others, please, if you will. And she said, now I can give you a recommendation. You don't look like you're dressed to play in the water today, but I could recommend to you that what people usually do that are here, they start down there at the bottom, and there's some warm water down there too. And that's where they rinse themselves off, down there. And then they start to walk upstream through the garden. Now a lot of it's really cold, because it's coming from Earth Drink Spring up there. It's most of the water down here is in its 50s, but there are warm spots as well. And you'll see them. You'll be able to tell before long. So if it gets too cold, you can also take a warm route up through the garden. If you're in barefoot. Oh, and another thing, we really don't like to see people wear boots or shoes or anything like that. Maybe a little bit cold, but it's fine if you're not in the water. But if you're in the water, please don't take your shoes or boots off. And she said, I feel a little ashamed telling you this stuff because it's kind of obvious, but anyway, that's kind of part of our job. She said, went on to explain that she was one of a club that maintained that as a volunteer. It was all volunteer run, and almost anybody that went there ended up being a volunteer because it was just so beautiful. You wanted to keep it beautiful, and you were allowed to give your own input. Once you got into it, you're a little bit like those children up there in the little garden. She said, "Did you see the little garden up there?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we saw that." Oh, she said, I was raised in the house right just a little bit above that, and all my life as a child I played in the tail race, but it wasn't until 6 years ago that the great change, that the great awakening and change had this enormous effect. I was 18 at the time, and I'm 24 now, and boy, has it ever changed. So how to get on that? Oh, so anyway, people are there, and in a way, it's like an adult playground for playing with water. Well, they thanked her, and she said, "Well, enjoy yourself." And she went back to where she was, took her bathrobe off, and lay down there again, sunning herself. And Scott said to Janet, he said, I'm reminded of Nice once again, that topless beach in France. Do you remember how civilized that felt? Do you remember that feeling? We as Americans going there, not, going with an almost a playboy attitude, naked women or topless women, woo-woo. And it like that kid with the cigar. Uh, and when you went down onto the beach and you walked around, you just felt like you were in one of the most civilized places on earth. I get a little bit of that feeling here too. Whew, hate to leave it. Bye for now.